Welcome back to Forgotten Gems. Today I'm going to go over the Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog. This is another show from my childhood that I don't think a lot of people remember, and at the time I don't think a lot of people were actually into. Myself, however, I was extremely into this show. This show was second to Power Rangers to me, which I guess was kind of the point. I mean, this show was basically Power Rangers in Ireland, and it was also developed by Saban Entertainment. Basically, they just wanted a Power Rangers type show where they didn't really need the Japanese footage anymore. And so they were able to create a show based on some old Irish mythology. This show aired on Fox Kids, and if you were a kid in the 90s, Fox Kids was definitely your jam. Some of the best shows that we've ever seen were on Fox Kids. This includes things like Power Rangers, Spider-Man the Animated Series, and X-Men the Animated Series. And that's just a small list of things that came on Fox Kids. Fox Kids was primetime TV for children like me growing up during that time. I'm going to go into the summary of the show and give you a character breakdown for each of the Mystic Knights. The Dark Fairy Mitre gives Queen Maeve the Runestone, which allows her to do sorcery and summon monsters to help her achieve her goals of ruling over the Kingdom of Kells. The King of Kells is desperately looking for a way to protect his people. This leads to Rowan, the apprentice of the druid Cathbad, to search for Draganta. Draganta was a mythical hero mentioned in a prophecy that will bring peace to their lands. He is joined by his friend Angus on this quest. They are later joined by a foreign prince named Ivar, and the Princess of Kells herself, Deirdre. They head to the land of Tir na Nog, where they find King Fin Vera. This king puts them through several tests, which eventually allows them to be able to attain their mystic armor. To do this, each member must defeat Mitre's evil sentinels. Together, they form the Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog. So that's a brief summary of what was going on here. And really, the most basic way to sum this up is Power Rangers in Ireland, like I mentioned earlier. Unlikely young people are brought together to be able to fight off a force of evil. I want to briefly go over each one of the Mystic Knights and the main villain of the series. First up we have Rowan. He's the typical leader who always seems to do the right thing. He was an orphan child and he was raised by the druid Cathbad. He wields the Sword of Kells and wears the red and gold mystic armor. He summons his armor by shouting, "Fire within me." He also has the Dragon's Breath dagger, which allows him to summon Pyre. He's the Dragon of Dare. Rowan is also confirmed to be Draganta himself. He's destined to bring peace to Kells for 100 lifetimes. Deirdre is the Princess of Kells. She wields the Whirlwind crossbow, which basically shoots out a burst of air. She wears the white and gold mystic armor. And to summon this armor, she shouts, "Air above me." Deirdre is kind of the sensible one. She always approaches things from a place of logic. Prince Ivar comes from a distant land, and he's seeking his country's sacred chalice. He wields the barbed trident, which he uses to shoot bolts of electricity from. He wears the blue and gold mystic armor. To summon his armor, he shouts, "Water around me." Ivar is regarded as a trusted and loyal friend to his companions. Angus is Rowan's friend, who's a bit of a troublemaker. He used to be a petty thief, and he's pretty full of himself. He wields the Terra Sling Mace. His weapon can throw giant boulders and create earthquakes. He wears the silver and gold mystic armor, and to summon his armor he shouts, "Earth beneath me." We also get a fifth Mystic Knight. His name is Garrett, and he's the Prince of Reged. He and Deirdre were actually promised to be married to each other, and that's what brought him to Kells. You're going to want to think of him as the Green Ranger of this group, aka Tommy Oliver. He was being magically controlled by Queen Maeve, which is the villain of the show. He creates a lot of trouble for the other Mystic Knights before they're able to break the spell. Oddly enough, Garrett has the ability to control other animals just by locking his eyes with them. He wields the twin timber axes, which shoot out a beam of energy. He wears the brown and gold mystic armor, and to summon his armor, he shouts, "Forest before me." I'm going to briefly go over Queen Maeve. I won't go too into what her role is in the series, as it is fairly spoiler heavy. Just know that she's the main villain who believes it is her birthright to rule over all of Kells. She allies herself with a dark fairy named Mitre, who assists her in her goals to take over Kells. As a kid, the show was pretty amazing. It combined Power Rangers with a medieval backdrop, and these set pieces were actually kind of good. I mean, there's some wonky CGI by today's standards, but they also filmed large battles out in fields. It looked pretty well for what it was. I mean, a kid's show that was putting this much production into its show, that's pretty impressive. Sadly, we only got one season, and again, this show kind of ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. It was definitely set up to have a second season, but unfortunately the second season, which was going to be known as Mystic Knights Battle Thunder, was cancelled. A fun little fact here is that Saban Entertainment actually took the budget that was allocated for this second season and split it up amongst Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and Digimon Digital Monsters, two pretty good shows as well. but I would have loved to have seen what a second season would have brought us. The show was actually filmed in Ireland, which gave it that authentic feel, and it was really cool to see them take some of those old myths from Ireland and turn that into a kids' TV show. And I, for one, absolutely ate this up. I had every single toy that this show put out. And I actually still have those toys as well. They're in my bin that also stores my old Exo Squad toys. I think my favorite was Garrett. His armor was incredible. I wouldn't say he was necessarily my favorite character, but when it came to the toy line, his action figure was just above everybody else's. And they were really well made toys. There was nothing cheap about them. They had a lot of articulation, a lot of detail with their armor, and they came with several weapons. You could also get vehicles which went along with your characters. So there you have it, that's the Mystic Knights of Tirnanog. It's a little difficult to find these days, but I'm sure if you search around YouTube, you can actually check out some episodes for yourself. I don't think the show holds up as well as Exo Squad does, but at the time it really captured my imagination, and I was hooked to it for a solid year. So that's another forgotten gem from me. Let me know if you also got to enjoy Mystic Knights of Tirnanog. And if you have any other suggestions for some forgotten gems, let me know in the comment section down below. I hope today's the day that I earned your subscription. Thanks for being a part of my life, and I'll see you next time.